There's a deeper part of you that already knows. It knows the answers you've been searching for. It knows the path you've been trying to figure out. But the problem is you've been trained to ignore it. You've been taught to overthink, to analyze, to control, while the quiet knowing inside you waits for you to remember how to listen. Quantum science and ancient wisdom agree. Reality doesn't just come from what you see, it comes from what you perceive beyond the senses. Inner knowing is not imagination. It's a frequency. And when you tune into it, your life starts to shift effortlessly. You stop chasing answers. You stop second-guessing every decision. And you begin to live from a state of deep, intuitive certainty. In this video, you'll discover why unlocking inner knowing is the real quantum shift, and how you can finally activate it, starting now. The hidden frequency behind true inner knowing. There is a frequency that exists beneath thought, a vibration of pure knowing that doesn't need proof. This is not the mind analyzing or the ego predicting. It's the deeper intelligence of your being tuning into truth. True inner knowing doesn't speak in loud commands, it whispers in calm, steady signals. When you tap into this frequency, life stops feeling complicated and starts feeling clear. Most people override this inner frequency because they've been trained to trust logic above all else. But the quantum field doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in energy. Inner knowing is the language of alignment. It's the quiet yes or no that comes from resonance, not reasoning. When you honor that signal, you find yourself flowing into the right decisions effortlessly. Your body is often the first receiver of inner knowing. A gut feeling, a sudden sense of peace, a subtle tension. These are not random. They are energetic data points, messages from your higher self that exist beneath conscious thought. The problem is not that you don't have access. It's that you've been conditioned to ignore these signals in favor of mental noise. The hidden frequency of knowing feels different from ordinary thinking. Thinking loops and analyzes. Knowing feels simple and direct. It's a soft click inside you that says this is right. It doesn't come with panic or confusion. It comes with clarity, even when you can't yet explain why. That's how you know it's coming from beyond the ego. Quantum physics teaches us that everything is vibration. Your inner knowing is part of that vibration. When your nervous system is calm and your mind is quiet, you're able to tune into subtler frequencies, the ones that hold intuitive wisdom. This is why meditation, breathwork, and stillness are keys to unlocking deeper knowing. True knowing is not emotional reactivity. It's not the fear-based urge to control or predict. It's the spacious awareness that feels steady no matter what chaos is happening around you. When you connect to this inner channel, you gain access to decisions and insights that feel like they come from somewhere beyond the mind, but they are coming from within. The frequency of knowing isn't just personal, it's universal. Your higher self is connected to the larger field of consciousness. That's why intuitive hits often feel like they're arriving from a higher place. In truth, they are because you're not just accessing your brain's database. You're accessing the intelligence of the universe through your own vibration. Learning to trust inner knowing starts by recognizing its signature. It's quiet, but it's persistent. It doesn't argue, it simply is. When you practice listening to this frequency daily, you build trust in yourself. Over time, you stop doubting your decisions because you realize you've already aligned with the part of you that sees the bigger picture. Most of the world is stuck in survival mode, which creates static in the system. Inner knowing can't be heard through the noise of anxiety or the rush of desperation. That's why the first step to accessing this frequency is nervous system regulation. When you calm the body, you clear the channel. Then, the knowing can finally come through. Inner knowing doesn't come from external information. It comes from inner alignment. It's not about collecting more facts. It's about clearing the clutter. The less distracted you are by the world's noise, the more attuned you become to the quiet voice within. This is the difference between consuming content and embodying consciousness. Your frequency is like a tuning fork. When you vibrate in fear, you attract confusion. When you vibrate in stillness, you attract clarity. The field responds to your internal state. That's why the fastest way to unlock knowing is to stop trying so hard to figure everything out and start feeling your way forward with presence. People often ignore their inner knowing because it doesn't always give them the answer they want, it gives them the answer they need. Sometimes it tells you to let go, walk away, or choose the harder path. But it's always guiding you toward alignment, not comfort. That's why trusting it requires courage. The more you live from inner knowing, the less you rely on external approval. You stop needing to ask, "Is this right?" because you've already checked in with your own frequency. Life becomes less about performing and more about listening. And when you listen deeply, the universe starts meeting you at the level of your integrity. True knowing feels expansive in the body. Even if it's a difficult decision, it brings a sense of lightness. It's like breathing in fresh air after holding your breath. That's the signal you're on the right track. Your body always knows before your mind catches up. When you listen, you stop betraying yourself for temporary comfort. In the quantum field, reality responds to certainty. Inner knowing is the most powerful form of certainty, not because it's loud, but because it's true. When you move from this place, your actions align with a higher order. The field responds not to effort, but to coherence. And coherence comes from knowing, not guessing. Why the mind blocks what the soul already knows. The soul operates in clarity, but the mind often operates in protection. The mind's job is to keep you safe, not necessarily to help you evolve. That's why the mind clings to patterns, routines, and familiar thoughts when they no longer serve you. Meanwhile, your soul is always nudging you toward expansion, growth, and alignment. The problem? The mind doesn't trust what it can't control. Most of us have been conditioned to prioritize logic over intuition. We were taught to analyze, overthink, and plan for every scenario. But the soul doesn't work through logic, works through knowing. It speaks in calm certainty, not mental loops. When the mind gets too loud, it drowns out the quiet wisdom that the soul is always broadcasting beneath the noise. The mind craves proof, while the soul already understands. This creates a gap between knowing and believing. Your soul might whisper, "It's time to change," but your mind will demand a guarantee of safety before you act. This hesitation leads to stuckness, not because you lack clarity, but because your mind is afraid to trust what it cannot predict. Fear is the mind's default setting when it encounters the unknown. But the unknown is exactly where the soul leads you. This creates internal conflict. One part of you wants to leap forward, while the other grips tightly to the edge. The mind tries to build certainty by collecting data. The soul builds certainty through surrender. Trauma and past experiences create layers of mental defense. These mental walls block new information from getting in even when that information comes from within. The mind tells stories like, "I can't trust myself," or "What if I'm wrong?" These stories keep you looping in analysis instead of dropping into inner wisdom. Ego plays a major role in blocking the soul's guidance. The ego wants to maintain its identity, and change threatens that identity. If your soul calls you toward a new path, the ego resists because it means letting go of control. But the deeper self isn't here to destroy you, it's here to evolve you. The mind sees danger, the soul sees destiny. Cultural conditioning also reinforces mental dominance. Society rewards intellect and dismisses intuition as soft or irrational. As a result, people learn to ignore gut feelings, suppress inner knowing, and lean solely on logic. But the most profound decisions in life rarely come from spreadsheets. They come from deep inner guidance. The mind is linear. The soul is multidimensional. The mind processes past and future, cause and effect. The soul moves in timeless awareness. It knows what you need before you can explain it. But because the mind can't figure out the soul's wisdom step by step, it labels it as uncertain or risky. That's why so many people second-guess their intuition. Perfectionism is another mental block. The mind wants the perfect plan, the perfect timing, and zero risk of failure. But the soul works through unfolding, not perfection. It guides you step by step, revealing the next layer only when you're ready. The mind resists this process because it can't control every outcome in advance. Your mind creates attachment to how things should look. When reality doesn't match that expectation, the mind panics. But the soul isn't attached to form, it's aligned with truth. Sometimes the soul asks you to let go of specific outcomes so you can open to something bigger. The mind sees loss. The soul sees liberation. Meditation and stillness are the antidotes to this blockage. When you quiet the mind, the soul's voice gets louder. You begin to realize that the answers were never missing. They were just buried under layers of overthinking. Inner knowing isn't something you find. It's something you remember once the mental chatter fades. The ultimate truth is this: your soul already knows what your mind is still trying to figure out. The longer you resist that knowing, the longer you stay stuck in loops of confusion. But when you trust the part of you that exists beyond thought, you shift into alignment. Life becomes less about managing fear and more about following resonance. Quantum vision, seeing beyond physical reality. Quantum vision is the ability to perceive life beyond the surface level. Most people see only what their eyes show them: their current bank account, their current relationships, their current challenges. But quantum vision means understanding that what you see is just one layer of reality. Beneath it lies the field of infinite potential, where every possibility already exists. When you develop quantum vision, you stop reacting only to what's visible. You learn to sense the energy underneath situations, the patterns behind events, and the alignment or misalignment of your current state. This is not fantasy or wishful thinking. It's an expanded perception, grounded in both science and spirituality. The quantum world responds to your observation. Physical reality is the final product of your frequency. It's the after effect, not the cause. Quantum vision allows you to shift from focusing on the outcome to focusing on the vibration that created it. When you see life this way, you're no longer trapped in what is, you're tuning into what can be. And that makes you a conscious creator, not just a passive observer. Seeing beyond physical reality means noticing subtle clues the average mind ignores. It's paying attention to synchronicities, gut feelings, and energetic shifts in your environment. These signs are not coincidences. They're indicators that reality is being molded by your state of consciousness. Quantum vision tunes you into this field of feedback. The physical world moves slower than the energetic world. What you're experiencing now is a reflection of your past frequency. Quantum vision teaches you to stop reacting to old echoes and start calibrating your present energy. You realize that the reality you're creating right now will show up in the future, so you begin to prioritize alignment over reaction. Most people get stuck because they wait for physical proof before they believe a shift has happened. But in the quantum world, belief precedes evidence. You have to see it internally before it becomes external. Quantum vision means trusting the unseen long enough for it to materialize. It's about holding the frequency even when the outer world looks the same for now. Quantum vision also teaches you to view challenges differently. Obstacles are not dead ends, they're energetic feedback loops asking for recalibration. When you stop viewing problems as punishments and start seeing them as invitations to shift your vibration, life becomes less about fixing and more about aligning. This expanded sight helps you decode the patterns in your life. You begin to notice how your thoughts create loops, how your emotions set the tone, and how your expectations shape outcomes. Quantum vision reveals that you're not at the mercy of life's randomness, you're participating in a co-creative process every second. When you see beyond physical reality, you realize that time is not linear. Past, present, and future exist as overlapping vibrations. The version of you who already has what you desire exists in another frequency right now. Quantum vision allows you to sense that version, tune into that state, and start collapsing it into your current timeline. Quantum vision isn't about escaping reality, it's about expanding it. It helps you live in the now, while also holding awareness of the field of potential around you. This dual awareness is what allows you to stay grounded and mystical at the same time. You act in the world, but you're no longer limited by it. Meditation, breathwork, and stillness are practices that sharpen quantum vision. They quiet the mind long enough for the deeper senses to activate. In that quiet space, you begin to perceive reality as energy first, matter second. You stop being fooled by appearances and start trusting your inner sight. In the end, quantum vision is not a gift for the few, it's a skill available to everyone willing to practice presence. The more you learn to see with your energy, not just your eyes, the more you realize that life is happening at multiple levels. And once you master this vision, you stop reacting to what is and start creating what will be. Inner alignment. The shortcut to higher perception. Inner alignment is not about adding more information, it's about removing inner conflict. Most people try to expand their perception by learning more, reading more, or seeking external knowledge. But true higher perception comes from inner coherence, where your mind, body, and soul are aligned. When you are aligned, you naturally begin to see beyond the ordinary. Higher perception isn't something you force, it's something you allow. When you are fragmented inside, your senses become clouded. Doubt, fear, and resistance create static in your system, making it difficult to hear intuitive guidance. But when you align your energy with truth, the noise fades. You start hearing the signals that were always there. Inner alignment happens when your thoughts match your feelings, and your actions match your values. This creates integrity, and integrity opens the channel to higher awareness. When you are out of alignment, you feel stuck, confused, or emotionally drained. But when you're in alignment, everything flows not because life got easier, but because you stopped resisting your path. Most people seek clarity from the outside. They look for signs, readings, or confirmations. But real clarity comes from aligning with your own inner guidance system. Your higher self already knows the next step. Inner alignment is the shortcut because it removes the gap between asking and knowing. When you align, you don't have to search, you simply receive. Inner misalignment creates distortion in perception. You begin to see life through the lens of fear or limitation. But when you align, you remove the filters that blur your vision. Suddenly, situations become clear, decisions feel obvious, and intuition becomes louder. Alignment sharpens perception because it eliminates the contradictions inside you. Breath, meditation, and stillness are tools that help you return to alignment. They calm the mind and relax the nervous system, creating space for the inner voice to emerge. When you're constantly in motion, your senses are overloaded. But when you pause, you create a clear channel between the self and the higher field of wisdom. Alignment is not about perfection, it's about congruence. You may still have fears, but you stop letting them drive. You may still feel emotions, but you process them instead of suppressing them. This honesty with yourself brings you back into alignment. And from that place, your perception expands naturally, without effort. Higher perception is not a mystical experience reserved for the few, it's the natural byproduct of energetic coherence. When you stop betraying your truth, you stop distorting your view of reality. You begin to sense deeper layers of meaning in everyday life. You see the patterns, the connections, and the guidance that others miss. Alignment also means letting go of roles and masks. When you live to please others or perform for acceptance, you create inner dissonance. This dissonance blocks intuitive perception, but when you drop the act and live from your authentic state, the channel clears. Life feels more real because you're no longer filtering it through pretense. When you align with your higher self, you start to notice that answers arrive without force. The more you relax into alignment, the more effortless guidance becomes. Insights drop in during quiet moments. Solutions appear when you're not overthinking. This is not luck, it's the result of an open, aligned inner field. Inner alignment also affects your body. Your health improves when you live in alignment because stress decreases and energy flows freely. Your heart, mind, and gut come into sync, allowing you to perceive the world from a more holistic space. This is why people who prioritize alignment often radiate peace and clarity without trying. In a misaligned state, life feels heavy and chaotic. But in alignment, life feels guided and connected. Even when challenges arise, you navigate them with grace because you trust the process. You're no longer trying to control everything, you're responding from a state of awareness. This is what makes perception higher. It comes from presence, not panic. The shortcut to higher perception is not about learning more, it's about unlearning resistance. Inner alignment is the fastest way to access the version of you who already knows. This version of you exists beyond fear, beyond ego, and beyond doubt. It's always there, waiting for you to tune in. When you prioritize alignment, you become a magnet for synchronicity. Opportunities and connections flow to you, not because you chase them, but because you're vibrating in resonance with them. Your perception expands to notice doors that were always open but previously invisible. This is the real magic of alignment. It changes what you see. Ultimately, inner alignment is the foundation of quantum living. It's not about escaping reality, it's about engaging with it from a higher frequency. When you align with truth, life organizes around you. And from that place, higher perception isn't a skill you practice, it's a state you embody. Stop seeking outside, activate the inner channel. Most people are conditioned to seek answers outside of themselves. They look for teachers, gurus, books, and external signs to validate their next step. But the truth is, the deepest wisdom is already within you. There is an inner channel, a direct line to higher consciousness, that holds the guidance you've been chasing everywhere else. The problem with seeking outside is that it creates dependency. You become reliant on something external to tell you who you are, what you should do, or what is true for you. This disempowers your connection to your own intuitive knowing. The more you look outward, the more disconnected you feel from your internal compass. Activating the inner channel is not about rejecting learning, it's about shifting the source of authority from outside to within. The world can offer you maps, but only your inner voice can tell you which path is yours. When you stop outsourcing your decisions, you start living from sovereignty, not confusion. Your inner channel is always broadcasting, but most people have too much mental noise to hear it. Overthinking, second-guessing, and obsessing over outcomes block the signal. Silence and stillness are the keys to tuning in. When you quiet the mind, you begin to receive messages from the part of you that already knows. Meditation is not just a relaxation practice, it's a tool for activating the inner channel. It teaches you to move from surface-level thought into deeper states of awareness. In this still space, guidance rises naturally, like bubbles surfacing from a still pond. You don't chase it, it comes to you. The inner channel speaks in sensations, feelings, and subtle impressions. It may not always use words, but you'll feel it in your body, a sense of expansion when something is right, or contraction when something is off. Learning to trust these signals is the beginning of reclaiming your intuitive intelligence. Seeking outside often comes from a place of fear. It's easier to ask someone else for the answer than to sit with uncertainty. But growth happens in that uncertain space. When you stop looking for quick fixes and start listening to your own inner channel, you build trust in yourself. That trust creates transformation. Every time you override your inner guidance in favor of external opinions, you weaken your connection to your own wisdom. But every time you follow your inner knowing, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen that channel. It becomes clearer, louder, and more reliable over time because you're feeding it attention. The inner channel is connected to the quantum field, where all potential realities exist. When you align with this channel, you don't just access personal insights, you tap into universal intelligence. You begin to perceive synchronicities, receive downloads, and experience life as a co-creation rather than a struggle. To activate this connection, you must also clear energetic clutter. Old wounds, limiting beliefs, and emotional baggage can distort your signal. Inner work like shadow integration, forgiveness, and releasing past pain opens space for clearer reception. The cleaner your channel, the purer your guidance becomes. Society teaches you to seek answers from experts, but the most profound shifts come from self-inquiry. Asking questions like, what feels aligned for me? Or, what is my truth in this moment? Awakens the inner channel. These questions don't always produce instant answers, but they invite deeper layers of knowing to rise. The inner channel is not about getting everything right. It's about staying in tune. Sometimes you'll follow guidance, and it won't make logical sense. That's because the inner channel works beyond linear thinking. It guides you based on energy, alignment, and unseen connections that your conscious mind can't always comprehend. When you stop seeking outside and start trusting inside, life becomes simpler. You don't have to analyze every detail or overthink every move. You act from resonance, not resistance. And the more you do this, the more you experience flow, because you're living from alignment, not force. Activating the inner channel doesn't mean you never learn from others. It means you filter everything through your own inner authority. You listen to teachings, but you check them against your soul's knowing. If something feels true, you keep it. If it feels off, you let it go. This is how you create wisdom, not just knowledge. Ultimately, the shift is this. Stop asking the world for permission to know who you are. You already know. The inner channel is your birthright. The more you tune into it, the less you seek validation, and the more you live from alignment. And when you live from alignment, the universe responds not because you begged for answers, but because you became the answer. How to tune your nervous system to universal wisdom. Your nervous system is not just a biological mechanism, it's an antenna for receiving higher guidance. When it's regulated and calm, it becomes sensitive to subtle signals from the universe. But when it's dysregulated, stuck in fight or flight, it blocks those messages. This is why tuning your nervous system is essential for accessing universal wisdom. The first step to tuning your nervous system is to move out of survival mode. When you're constantly stressed, your body is focused on protection, not perception. Wisdom can't reach you if you're trapped in anxiety. The universe may be sending signals, but a chaotic nervous system won't receive them clearly. Breathing is one of the fastest ways to regulate your system. Conscious, slow breathing signals safety to the body. When you breathe deeply, you tell your nervous system, "I'm not in danger." This creates space for intuition and insight to rise. Breath becomes the bridge between survival and higher consciousness. Meditation is another powerful tool. When you meditate regularly, you train your system to become comfortable with stillness. In this stillness, the mind softens and the body relaxes. That's when universal wisdom has a chance to whisper through the noise. You can't hear subtle guidance when your mind is racing. Your vagus nerve plays a critical role in this process. It's the main communicator between your body and brain. Activating the vagus nerve through breath, humming, or cold exposure can shift you into parasympathetic Madatha, state of rest and receptivity. This is where intuition becomes clearer. Movement also tunes the system. Gentle practices like yoga, tai chi, or mindful walking help release trapped energy. When your body feels safe and fluid, your awareness expands. You begin to notice connections, synchronicities, and inner nudges that guide you toward alignment. Movement unlocks wisdom stored in the body. Unhealed trauma creates static in your system. When you carry unresolved pain, your nervous system stays hypervigilant, scanning for threats instead of tuning into higher insight. Healing this trauma through therapy, breathwork, or energy practice creates more space for wisdom to flow in. Healing clears the channel. Rest is underrated in spiritual practice. A fatigued nervous system cannot process universal wisdom clearly. Sleep, naps, and downtime are not luxuries. They're essential resets. When you rest, you allow your body to integrate information and your mind to settle into deeper understanding. Sound healing is another way to tune your nervous system. Frequencies like 432 Hz or 528 Hz naturally calm the body and open the heart. Listening to these sounds regularly can shift you from chaos into coherence. In a coherent state, you're better able to perceive insights from the quantum field. Nutrition matters too. The gut is often called the second brain because it's deeply connected to the nervous system. Eating foods that reduce inflammation and support gut health also support intuition. A clean, balanced body becomes a clearer receiver for higher frequencies of information. Emotional regulation is part of nervous system health. When you suppress emotions, you create inner tension. This blocks access to wisdom. But when you process emotions mindfully, allowing them without judgment, you create inner spaciousness. Wisdom flows into an open, emotionally honest system. Boundaries are also part of nervous system care. If you're constantly overwhelmed by external noise, you'll stay dysregulated. Saying no, protecting your time, and limiting distractions create safety inside you. This safety is fertile ground for universal wisdom to be received and integrated. Nature naturally soothes the nervous system. Time spent in forests, oceans, or even your backyard reconnects you to the Earth's frequency. The Schumann resonance, Earth's natural vibration, calms the body and resets your energy. When you're in sync with nature, you're more in sync with higher guidance. Laughter and joy are powerful regulators. When you laugh, your body releases stress, and your heart opens. Joy softens the nervous system, allowing wisdom to enter through playfulness rather than pressure. The universe doesn't just speak through solemn moments, it also whispers through lightness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention without judgment. When you are mindful, your system slows down and your awareness sharpens. You begin to notice subtle shifts in energy, small signs from the universe, and internal cues that lead you to truth. This is how wisdom becomes accessible in daily life. Energy hygiene is crucial. When you carry other people's stress or take on too much external energy, your system becomes overloaded. Practices like grounding, cord cutting, and energetic clearing help reset your field. A clean energy body creates space for universal wisdom to land. Journaling can help discharge nervous system tension. Writing out your fears, worries, or looping thoughts clears mental clutter. Once the clutter is released onto paper, you create mental space. In that space, insights and downloads can enter without resistance. Presence is the ultimate regulator. When you're fully in the now, your system relaxes because there's nothing to fear. The past and future create anxiety loops, but the present moment is where wisdom speaks. This is why practices like breath awareness and conscious living are foundational. Your nervous system is like a radio dial. If you're tuned to the frequency of stress, you miss the broadcast of wisdom. But when you shift the dial toward calm, curiosity, and trust, you receive clearer messages. The universe is always broadcasting, you just need to be on the right frequency. In the end, tuning your nervous system is an act of spiritual mastery. It's not just about calming down, it's about becoming a clear vessel for universal intelligence. When your body feels safe, your soul can guide you. And in that state, wisdom is not something you find, it's something you remember. Becoming the observer, the secret to accessing inner knowing. Becoming the observer is the first step to unlocking deeper inner knowing. When you're caught inside your thoughts and emotions, you can't see clearly. But when you take a step back and observe yourself without judgment, you access a higher layer of awareness. This is where intuitive guidance becomes visible. Most people identify too closely with their thoughts. They believe every idea that passes through their mind is truth. But thoughts are like clouds, they pass through, change form, and dissolve. The observer watches the clouds without getting stuck in them. This detachment is what makes inner knowing clearer. The observer is the part of you that notices, not the part of you that reacts. It sees your patterns without being controlled by them. When you learn to become the witness of your own mind, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space, wisdom emerges because you're no longer drowning in reaction. Emotions are powerful, but they can also blur perception. Becoming the observer means you feel emotions fully, without letting them hijack your decisions. You can say, "I feel fear," without becoming fear. This allows you to make choices from a place of clarity, not panic. Inner knowing speaks loudest in calm spaces. The ego thrives on identification. It wants you to believe you are your thoughts, your roles, and your emotions. But the observer reminds you that you are more than that. You are the awareness behind the experience. This shift in perspective unlocks a direct connection to higher guidance, free from ego distortion. Meditation is the practice of becoming the observer in real time. When you sit in stillness, you begin to notice the stream of thoughts without chasing them. You notice sensations without labeling them. Over time, this builds a habit of spacious awareness, where intuitive insight naturally flows in. Inner knowing is not something you create, it's something you uncover. It's already there, beneath layers of noise. The observer role helps peel back those layers. When you watch your mind instead of being controlled by it, you begin to sense the subtle signals of truth that were hidden before. Becoming the observer dissolves inner conflict. Instead of battling your thoughts, you watch them with curiosity. Instead of suppressing emotions, you allow them to pass through. This neutral attention calms the nervous system and creates the perfect conditions for higher wisdom to rise. Life situations become easier to navigate when you live from the observer state. You stop taking things personally because you realize everything is a projection of energy. You begin to notice the patterns in your own behavior and in the world around you. This pattern recognition is the foundation of deeper knowing. Observation creates distance from the drama of daily life. You're still present, but you're no longer entangled. This is not detachment in the cold sense, it's compassionate witnessing. You can be fully engaged with life while staying connected to the part of you that remains centered and clear. The observer doesn't judge, it sees. This non-judgmental awareness helps dissolve shame and guilt, which are two of the biggest blocks to intuition. When you stop punishing yourself for thoughts or emotions, you create room for honest insight. This honesty is where wisdom takes root. Becoming the observer allows you to see how your own thoughts create your reality. You begin to notice how repetitive stories shape your perception. Once you observe these loops, you can choose new thoughts that align with your desired state of being. This is conscious creation in action. Inner knowing requires humility. The mind always wants to be right, but the observer is not concerned with right or wrong. It's concerned with truth. When you observe openly, you allow deeper truths to emerge, even if they contradict your current beliefs. This flexibility is essential for growth. In the observer state, time feels different. You stop rushing because you're no longer trapped in the mind's constant future projections. You become more present, and in that presence, intuitive insights land naturally. You don't have to force knowing, you simply become available to it. Becoming the observer transforms relationships. You start to notice your triggers, projections, and patterns of reaction. This awareness helps you respond from wisdom instead of defensiveness. When you interact from this space, you experience deeper connection and clearer communication. The observer also notices synchronicities and subtle signs from the universe. When you're not caught in mental chatter, you can perceive the small nudges and winks from reality that guide your path. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations that you're in tune with the field. Stillness becomes sacred when you live as the observer. You no longer fear quiet moments because they are the spaces where insight blooms. Silence is no longer emptiness, it's fullness. In the stillness, you hear the whispers of your higher self more clearly than in any noisy environment. Living from the observer state helps you detach from outcomes. You act from alignment, but you release the need to control how things unfold. This trust in the process opens doors to wisdom that controlling cannot. Inner knowing thrives in surrender, not in force. Practicing observation isn't something you do once, it's a daily practice. You catch yourself when you get lost in thought and gently return to awareness. Each time you do this, you strengthen the muscle of presence. And the more present you are, the more naturally intuitive knowing becomes part of your life. Ultimately, becoming the observer is not about stepping back from life, it's about stepping deeper into it, but from a place of expanded awareness. When you live as the witness, you stay rooted in truth. And from that truth, all the answers you've been seeking begin to surface effortlessly. The truth is, you were never disconnected from inner knowing, you were just distracted from it. Your higher intelligence has always been there, quietly waiting beneath the noise of overthinking and doubt. But now, you've remembered. Now, you're tuning back in. When you trust that inner frequency, life stops feeling like a problem to solve. It starts becoming an unfolding in alignment with the path that's already meant for you. The universe doesn't hide the answers. It speaks them through the energy you allow yourself to feel. So, from this moment forward, stop forcing. Start listening. Stop questioning your worth. Start honoring your knowing. And if this message resonated, don't just click away, anchor it. Comment below, "I trust my inner knowing," because saying it is not just for me, it's for the field. It's for you. And it's for the version of you that's already aligned with everything you're seeking. This isn't just content, it's a frequency. And you're now in it.